Via telephone, our guest is the president of the West Virginia Education Association, Dale Lee. Dale, good morning. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning. I was going to ask, does anybody really know what time it is?
Yeah. It is 9:36.
Does anybody really care?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Dale, I know John wanted to ask you about the process of the merger and how that's going. Did you, other than a general question on that, John, did you have something more specific regarding it?
Well, no, just a general question, what the status of it is.
We're continuing discussions. The plan is to have both organizations meet. For us, it's a delegate assembly. For them, it's a convention on March 29th, which is coming up very quickly. To have both organizations vote, and then once that's done, we will submit it to both nationals, and then they're for the NEA, the executive committee has to approve it, and for the AFT, their national board has to approve it.
Now, that
should be just a formality.
Yeah. Now, is this a national merger or just a state merger?
No. Just a state merger, and the merger would take place. The new organization would start September 1 of 2025.
Got it. Now, would that organization be part of the AFL-CIO as the AFT is, or would it be separate as the WVEA is?
No, it would be a part of the AFL-CIO also.
Okay.
There's a lot of initials being thrown around.
So yeah. Even though the national NEA would have some participation in it,
both of our members, all the new organization's members would be also a member of both the national AFT and the national NEA.
Joint membership.
Got you. Thank you. Okay.
So Fred Albert stepped aside from AFT West Virginia. Christy Skidmore took his place. I think Fred's serving in an emeritus status. Does that affect these talks in any way, Dale?
No, Christy had come in when Fred knew that he was going to retire. Christy was the heir apparent, and we brought her in early for discussions. So she's been pretty up to date on everything that we're doing.
We just completed a discussion with Damon Wright from the Berkeley County Board of Education, and one of those subjects we discussed was teacher morale, in the sense that many feel. Do you need to get that, by the way? Because I can hold on. Teachers.
No, they're just calling to tell me what time it is.
There's Terry Kath from the Great Beyond giving you a call. Teachers kind of feel like they're getting it from both sides here.
Sure.
Dale, and that is that they don't feel like they're getting support from admin when they have a disciplinary situation in the classroom and they step in, and they certainly don't feel like they're getting it in many cases from the parents either. Are you hearing the same complaints from your members?
Yeah, we're hearing it all across the state, and that's why for the last 3 years I have strongly said that we need to be concentrating on the mental and emotional support of our students and this discipline issue, that we have to address it in the elementary school level. And if you wait until they're in middle school or high school, you've lost them in many cases. And we will continue to stress that in this upcoming legislature, that we have programs that can reach this. I mean, we're seeing kindergarten kids that are being abusive to other students, abusive to the teachers, abusive to the aides. Some are out of control.
Kindergarten incidents?
Oh yes, absolutely.
So,
and that's why we have to reach down at the elementary level, at the very basic level. If we don't address those needs now, imagine what that kid's going to be when they get to middle school.
What mental health assistance are you, if any, providing for teachers right now?
Well, we certainly are trying to give them coping skills, give them some mental breaks, so to speak. The State Department also has a program that is free to every school in West Virginia and every parent actually in West Virginia that gives them a mental health coach, so to speak, to help them with some problems and things like that. And many of our parents across the state and grandparents across the state are taking advantage of that, are reaching out and saying, I need help.
Can I assume that the same abusive situations teachers are reporting are also being reported by those who drive the school buses, work in the cafeterias,
Sure.
clean the hallways?
Sure. Probably not as much in the cafeteria, because the cooks are behind the tables, but absolutely all across the levels of education.
Is there an answer from the parents on this in any way? When you had your rotating meetings around the state, did you get much parental involvement in those?
Not as much as I would have liked, but it seems with this program that the State Department is offering with the parenting, the coaching, that more and more are reaching out, and we will try to figure out ways to reach more with that.
If we removed all of the discipline problems from the schools in regards to the students, right, those who are discipline problems, if we sent them to an alternate school, would that solve most of the problems in the school system?
I would rather put them in an alternate setting in the school where we can work on their behavior issues and their academics at the same time, and particularly in the elementary school level, because that way we had a program in 2011, 2012 with innovation zones that did that in 5 pilot counties, and we saw huge success. That to me makes more sense than having a separate site, alternative site. Although there are kids that may need that alternative site, but particularly in elementary school, we need to work on the behavior and the discipline issues and the academics all at the site, I believe.
Why did the pilot program become discontinued?
Because we stopped funding innovation zones in the state, so we could fund charter schools and Hope scholarships.
All right, I got a delegate here. He wasn't elected in 2012, but Mike,
No, he wasn't.
Your thoughts on what Dale said may have been working 12 years ago or so.
Well, I mean, if it was working and you can show success rates, then we should probably explore it again. And that doesn't sound like such a bad idea, as keeping the kids within the school and giving them an alternative classroom. The problem is, we used to have schools and teachers for reading, writing, arithmetic, and now we've gotten into counseling. We have to counsel children on how to behave. And we're expecting more, not just out of the teachers, but our counselors to be psychologists in some ways, and that's part of the education. I think you talk about some of the biggest problems are in kindergarten. I would imagine for some of those kids, this is their first introduction into a social atmosphere and dealing with other kids, especially if they're only children and they haven't gone to some daycare or something outside of the home. So they're learning these social skills, and if they're unruly and you don't keep them in check, it's just going to continue on down the road when they get to first, second, third grade. So yeah, we have to do something. If that was working, then maybe we need to explore it again.
John, do you remember those?
Yeah, I was in the legislature 2011 and 2012 when those were passed, and I had great hopes for them. I was not on the education committee then. I was actually in 11 I was on the finance committee, and in 2012 I was on actually which was my last year. I did not run for re-election in 2012. I was on the Judiciary Committee, so I was kind of out of the line. But I remember when I was on Finance, and and I was out until 2018, and when I got back in, that's when we abandoned them. And as I recall, Dale, they had not been expanded beyond those 5 original pilot programs. Is that right?
They haven't. They haven't because the funding stopped. Yes,
Yeah, that's
you're
right. And we were I was in favor of expanding it at the time in 2019 when I came in, and the legislature's approach was, well, let's just forget about all this and let's do charter schools and stuff like that.
Well, what was the fiscal note on that?
I don't remember, but it's. I think we could easily have, say, gone from 5 to 10, and then from 10 to 20. We could have built it into the to the funding formula. Because remember, if you can solve a lot of this problem, you're saving money on that end. I mean, it costs an awful lot of money to have to have to handle for unruly students within a regular classroom.
But there's nothing to prevent school boards independently from doing this program as well, if they had the money to do it.
If they had the money, no, that's correct.
So there are school counties, boards of education, like I would say Doddridge, Marshall, places like that, where the severance is huge, and they have more money to put in their schools. They could run these programs.
But to be fair, there are 12 to 14 counties that have some alternative programming for elementary school right now that they're using their levies or things like that to do that. So there are some programs out there, but not many that have an alternative setting at the school, each individual school to address these issues. And also be fair, back in 2011 with the innovation zones, it wasn't in every school in the county. There were pilot schools in the counties that did this. And you saw the academics increase by about 72%, and you saw the behavior referrals reduced by about 74%. So there is data that shows that this indeed did work.
Dale, do you recall what specific approach was being taken in these alternate classrooms inside these pilot schools that was successful?
Well, you were trying to dive in. You had someone who was working on what was causing these behavior disruptions. What and how to address that. It may be an anger issue, and how to address the anger issue, and how to do that, as well as working on their academic at the same time. But there were different approaches in the 5 different counties.
What was the cost? What were the cost? I'm trying to say this the right way. What caused the program to cost money if it was already within the school, the students were already there, and you already had the teachers in place? Was it that you had to hire an additional teacher?
You had additional staffing. Yeah,
additional staffing.
Additional staffing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I would think you would need staff with the ability to
Sure.
counsel and to have that psychology background to be able to identify what the underlying issues are.
Yeah. But at that time, in many of our elementary schools, you had one counselor for the whole school, and this may have been put an additional person in there, something like that. I'm old and I don't remember things nearly as well as I used to, and I don't have. I'm not in my office today, so I don't have the data in front of me. But the cost wasn't as outrageous as one would think. But if you expand it to every school in the state, then the cost does get pretty high.
But by the same token, Dale, if it works, spending that extra money in the education budget will, in the long run, mean money that is not spent on the prison system and in health and human services and stuff like that.
Sure, absolutely.
The long game, you're saying there, John.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Dale, as we begin the second half of the school year here into the month of January, what is your teacher shortage situation around the state at this time?
We're about 1,500 short, and the other thing that concerns me as we go into this second semester is this is the worst January that I can remember. I don't remember a time when it was January 13th before schools across the state of West Virginia were able to return to school, and then it was just for a day or two. We've had more snow, more cold weather than I can remember. I don't remember snow being on the ground as long as it has been, as long as it is, and it's still on the ground and probably all across the state. So the days that people have budgeted in for the non-traditional instructional days and the snow days are going to run out in January. And we still have February, March, and many times April to worry about. So that's something that we have asked the state superintendent to look at to possibly give some relief to our counties with this.
Does the superintendent have that authority?
I believe she does.
Okay.
I believe she does, and I think it's something that she is looking at. To be fair to her, I think she realizes the predicament that every county is in, and she will work with superintendents to give some relief along the line.
If I could change the subject?
Just before you do, real quickly, Dale, these schools that have been closed for a lot of January, are most of them doing remote instruction or non-traditional instruction in some way?
They are, but there's a limited number of non-traditional days that they have in the calendar that statute allows them to have in the calendar.
What is that number? Do you know?
I don't. Again, that's the problem with getting as old as I am.
It's okay.
You can't pull all these out of the hat like I used to be able to.
The important thing is that we're coming up against that hard quota right now, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And many counties will at least get to the end of that or use them all in January.
Mr. Doyle.
Yeah, to change the subject, the legislature's coming up on February the 12th. What would you like to see from the legislature this year? What do you think might be possible? It's an open-ended question, and just let us know. Because I'm not in it. My cohort here is, but he can deal with what you want. I can't.
Delegate Hike does a good job. He represents the people over there extremely well. I think what I hope will happen during this legislative session is that we have open communication, and that we're not going to agree on every issue and everything, but that we at least have the dialogue going. And I feel very comfortable with that, particularly in the House. It's been that way. I've experienced that for the last several years. We don't always agree, but we have the discussions, and I would hope that will continue. I think we have to look at the fact that we dropped to 51st in the nation in pay, and our health insurance costs continue to increase, and this year it's going to increase more than anyone thought, more than people realized when they passed the hard, fast 80-20. And we have to address that. That's part of the issue with the shortage of educators in the state. We have to address that. And again, the big thing is we have to address these needs of these students.
Dale, what is your view of the new, speaking of the House, of the new committee structure and committee procedure? I
have 1.5 minutes to go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think anything is worth, if it can improve the process, that it's worth giving a shot. So I'm excited to have these discussions and to get more things vetted in the proper way.
Thank you.
Mike, do you have anything real quick?
Well,
we have a minute.
just on that subject, I think that the new system will allow us to focus in certain areas. But if you're on a subcommittee, you're automatically on the standing. Before, I could be on health and then be, probably subdivisions at the same time, which there was no connection to. I think with this, it gives us delegates a connection with the upper committee.
Let's hear it for organization. Dale Lee, thank you so much for your time this morning. Much appreciated, sir.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dale.
Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.